On tonight's World News we present another of the many bizarre stories on the supernatural, the unexplained. Tonight's story, my own dream of having died. Next on World News this evening. Stay with us. My dream of dying from October 7th, 2017. The dream begins with me and other people being sent to a kind of orientation center, where they have us change clothes and check us through an examination to be sure we are able to continue on after the experience we each had of dying in one way or another. It was more of an R&R to help us understand what our lives would be from this point on. These were people of all kinds, but I didn't see children. Only adults were there, like maybe kids were sent to somewhere else other than where we were. The examination was, I guess, to see if the person was still traumatized in some way after their death. Of course, no injury would exist because it didn't matter now that you weren't alive anymore. In a lot of ways, seeing people walking around might make you think you were in a Walking Dead television show, pardon the pun, but honestly, you really felt like you were the same as they were, that all of us were in the same predicament. We all were in the same situation because we all had that one thing in common, we were all dead. But, note this fact. We still had conscious awareness of our surroundings, of ourselves. We still existed even if we were dead. That's something not shown in movies or television. They try to imply you aren't the same anymore. I remember my moment of death was just being somewhere, looking at a light and staring at it because I knew I couldn't move, since I wasn't alive anymore. Then I found other people were also moving around slowly and I joined them, going to somewhere I didn't know, but all of us knew it was a building of some kind there in the city. The feelings I had was that you were in limbo, like time meant nothing to you here. I felt like I had all the time in the world to do whatever I was going to because I knew I wasn't alive. I remember the sensation of flying. I was moving over a city and saw buildings above me. Not like in the movies, but the idea that these buildings were of people and you saw them inside from the windows, almost like they weren't real people, but the closer you got you saw they were real. It was clear too, you saw directly through the windows and saw them milling around with each other. I remember seeing them in groups of two, men and women. Maybe what I saw wasn't our world but heaven itself, that God reunites us with those who He chose for us on earth whether we ever married or not. It was strange, but in my dream, I went to the very top of one skyscraper and saw a kind of pinnacle where these people milled around too, and I went in. No, I didn't have a partner awaiting me when I arrived either, sad though it was. I have never married or had any relationships with anyone. Maybe that's why in my dream, I saw no one there when I came onto the balcony. The light I saw after my death was not a light into a tunnel, but a light on a street curb in the distance. I remember I opened my eyes and squinted at it, slowly becoming aware of my surroundings. I just kept looking at the light for a long time and then saw other people walking towards town and I joined them. It gets fuzzy from here because the next thing I remember was that we knew we had to do something after the orientation, because they said we all still occupied the same space as the world we knew but in a different dimension, so we would still have to work and do the things we used to but for different reasons. I thought of my last job, that I had worked at for 11 years and thought how could I go back and yet they wouldn't know I used to work for them again. I went with some other people too who were going for an interview at a store, which I didn't recognize. I got an application and took it to a desk and filled it out. Then I took it back to the agent and found out the store I went to wasn't the store I thought. This was a branch of the store and that I would have to go down the block to the main store to apply. So I did, asking the manager things about where we were and asking about how long had it been since I had last worked, like this person even knew me. What I wanted was to know how long was I in limbo, what time frame had passed since I last perceived living. The suggestion I got was that it had been many years since I last worked and that people reflected on my former self being reliable and dependable, that they missed me. I thought, I can't tell them I'm back again. They'd never believe me anyway. The people who came with me just milled around too at the store entrance, some climbing the walls around the storefront because I thought they didn't care if they fell, they wouldn't die anyway. That feeling of fatalism, that nothing matters anymore. That attitude is very prevalent in our society right now. People don't care what happens anymore to anyone or even themselves. That's about all I remember of my dream because I then woke up and I never fell asleep again after that. The end. The following story you just heard is real. It is recreated for this program from the actual transcript of the experience. Please be with us again for another world news this evening for other stories of the bizarre and the unusual. Thanks for watching. This has been a presentation of Twirling Skirts Productions, in association with This Film is Restricted Productions, Inc. Copyright 2017, all rights reserved.